The grand assembly of the Xenon Confederation hummed with anticipation as Supreme Strategist Zixtal glided toward the central podium. Hundreds of crystalline observation pods floated in the massive chamber, each containing representatives from the most powerful civilizations in known space. Today's session had drawn unprecedented attendance. The discovery of a new spacefaring species always did. Esteemed members of the Confederation. Zixtal's resonant voice filled the chamber, her iridescent scales shifting colors as she spoke. Our long-range reconnaissance has confirmed the emergence of a new civilization in the Orion Arm. They call themselves humans. The holographic display above the podium flickered to life, showing a small fleet of vessels orbiting a blue-green planet. The ships appeared remarkably basic, angular, utilitarian craft that lacked the organic curves and crystalline architecture that dominated Confederation design philosophy. Their total military force consists of exactly 273 vessels, Zixtal continued, unable to keep a note of derision from her voice. Most barely larger than our scout ships. Murmurs of amusement rippled through the chamber. Senior Ambassador Clore of the Meridian Cluster raised one of his sensory appendages. Surely there must be some mistake. No species achieves faster-than-light travel with such primitive architecture. Our scans are quite thorough, Zixtal replied, manipulating the hologram to show detailed technical readouts. Their propulsion systems utilize basic antimatter catalysis. Their weapons appear to be conventional particle accelerators and plasma projectors. Nothing we haven't seen in dozens of developing species. High Commander Venera, leader of the Confederation's military forces, leaned forward in his pod. His cybernetically enhanced eyes wavered as they focused on the images. Have they responded to our standard greeting protocols? That's the curious part, Zixtal said. They acknowledged our transmission but declined our offer of technological assistance. They stated, and I quote, "Humanity appreciates your generous offer but prefers to develop at its own pace." Laughter echoed through the chamber. The very idea that a species would refuse the Confederation's guidance was absurd. They had uplifted hundreds of civilizations, guiding them toward proper integration with galactic society. In the lowest tier of observation pods, junior analyst Ethera watched the proceedings with growing concern. She had spent the past 3 cycles studying human historical transmissions, and something about their response pattern troubled her. "Supreme Strategist," she called out, her voice trembling slightly. "If I may." Zixtal's attention shifted to the young analyst, her expression one of barely concealed annoyance. "Speak, junior analyst, but be brief. In my analysis of human historical records, I've noticed a consistent pattern. They often appear less advanced than they truly are. They seem to have a cultural preference for understated capability." "Are you suggesting," Clore interrupted, his tone dripping with condescension, "that these humans are deliberately hiding advanced technology in crude vessels?" "I'm suggesting we should not judge them solely by appearance," Ethera replied. "Their historical records show numerous instances where technological disadvantage was overcome through unexpected methods." High Commander Venera waved a dismissive appendage. "Young one, I have overseen first contact with 17 species. The pattern never varies. They see our power, accept our guidance, and join the Confederation. These humans will be no different. I propose," Zixtal announced, "we proceed with Standard Protocol 7. A demonstration of Confederation power. We will deploy the 7th Fleet to their solar system. 3,000 ships should sufficiently impress upon them the wisdom of accepting our leadership." The motion passed almost unanimously. Only Ethera and a handful of other junior analysts voted against it. As the assembly dispersed, Ethera hurried to catch up with her superior. "Director Mix, please," she pleaded. "Let me show you the human battles I've studied. The way they think about warfare is different." The director barely slowed his pace. "Enough, Ethera. The decision has been made. The 7th Fleet departs tomorrow." Ethera watched him go, her heart heavy with foreboding. In her research, she had encountered a human saying that seemed terrifyingly relevant. Appearances can be deceiving. As the Confederation's mighty fleet prepared for departure, no one in the assembly remembered to ask a crucial question. Why would a species capable of faster-than-light travel choose to make their ships look primitive? The answer to that question would soon shake the foundations of galactic society. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the Earth Defense Force Command Station Artemis, watching distant stars glitter against the void. Behind her, holographic displays showed the approaching Confederation fleet. 3,000 ships moving in perfect geometric formations, their crystalline hulls refracting starlight like artificial constellations. "They're making quite a show of it," remarked Captain David Rodriguez, his weathered face reflected in the transparent aluminum. Tactical analysis confirms they're broadcasting their approach on all standard frequencies. They want us to see them coming. Chen's lips curved into a slight smile. "And what do our real sensors say?" Rodriguez gestured, and a new hologram materialized, a far more detailed scan that revealed the intricate energy patterns flowing through the alien vessels. Their shield harmonics are exactly what we expected. Standard crystalline lattice configuration, optimized for deflecting conventional energy weapons. He paused, checking another reading. "They're not even running electronic warfare suites. They genuinely believe we're as primitive as our ships look." The Admiral turned from the viewport, her attention shifting to another display where Earth's primitive defense fleet held position. 273 ships, arranged in what would appear to any conventional military analyst as a hopelessly outdated formation. The ships' hulls were plain, angular, and utilitarian, deliberately so. "Status of Project Chameleon?" she asked. "All ships report adaptive camouflage systems functioning at optimal levels," Rodriguez replied. "As far as their sensors can tell, we're running basic fusion reactors and particle weapons. The quantum cores and dimensional shifters remain undetectable." A junior officer hurried into the command center. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Confederation fleet." The main screen flickered to life, revealing Supreme Strategist Zixtal's imposing figure. "People of Earth," she began, her translator converting her harmonic speech into English. "The Xenon Confederation extends its greetings. We have come to demonstrate the benefits of joining our alliance. Our fleet represents merely a fraction of our civilization's power. We invite your leaders to witness our technological superiority and begin discussions about your integration into the Confederation." Chen exchanged glances with her staff before responding. "Supreme Strategist, we appreciate your dramatic arrival. However, as we stated previously, humanity prefers to develop at its own pace." "You misunderstand." Zixtal's tone hardened slightly. "This is not a negotiation. The Confederation has guided hundreds of emerging species toward proper civilization. Your resistance to our benevolent oversight is concerning." "Is that a threat, strategist?" Chen's voice remained carefully neutral. "Merely a statement of fact. We have assigned you a development category based on our scans of your vessels. You will receive appropriate technological assistance and cultural guidance. Resistance would be unfortunate." As the transmission ended, Rodriguez shook his head. "They'd really have no idea, do they?" "That's rather the point, Captain." Chen activated a secure channel to all Earth Defense Force vessels. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. The Confederation has made their position clear. They believe us to be primitive, unguided children playing with technology beyond our understanding. This prejudice is our greatest advantage." She paused, studying the tactical display where the massive alien fleet continued its approach. "For 3 generations, we've hidden our true capabilities. Every ship we've built, every technology we've developed, has been concealed beneath layers of misdirection. The Confederation sees what they expect to see, a young species stumbling into the galactic community. Today, they learn the cost of that assumption. Initiate Operation Looking Glass. Authorization, Chen, Alpha 79. Throughout Earth's fleet, hidden systems hum to life. Quantum computers that had been dormant beneath false energy signatures began their calculations. Dimensional shields, disguised as primitive particle barriers, synchronized their frequencies. Below the plain exterior of humanity's ships, metamaterials began their programmed transformations. In the Confederation fleet, junior analyst Ethra watched her sensor readings with growing unease. Something about the human formation nagged at her trained mind. Their ships were positioned in a pattern that seemed inefficient, almost amateurish, unless... Her eyes widened as she recalled an ancient human battle she had studied. Trafalgar, they had called it, where a seemingly inferior force had used the sun and wind to devastating effect. But surely they couldn't be. Supreme Strategist, she called out urgently. I believe we should reconsider our approach. The humans. Silence, Zixtal commanded. The demonstration begins now. 7th Fleet, assume attack positions. Show these humans the true meaning of advanced civilization. As the Confederation ships moved into their carefully choreographed formation, none of their crew noticed the subtle changes beginning in the human fleet. None except Ethra, who watched in growing horror as her specialized sensors detected something impossible. The energy signatures of the human vessels were changing, evolving, becoming something entirely different from what they had appeared to be. The trap was set. The Confederation's mighty fleet, supreme in its arrogance, was about to learn why humanity had worked so hard to appear primitive. Sometimes, the most dangerous predator is the one that looks like prey. Supreme Strategist Zixtal watched with satisfaction as the 7th Fleet moved into attack formation. 3,000 ships, their crystalline hulls gleaming, arranged in the sacred geometric patterns that had won countless battles across the galaxy. The human vessels remained motionless, their crude designs an offense to proper military aesthetics. Final warning, Earth vessels, she broadcast. Power down your systems and prepare for boarding. We will begin your technological integration immediately. Admiral Chen's response came not as words, but as action. The human fleet suddenly began to move, their formation shifting in ways that defied conventional tactical doctrine. To Zixtal's eyes, it looked like chaos. To Ethra, watching from her analysis station, it was something else entirely, purpose disguised as disorder. Energy spike detected. A Confederation sensor officer called out. The human vessel's air. The officer never finished his sentence. The seemingly solid hulls of Earth's ships rippled like disturbed water. Layers of metamaterials peeled away, revealing sleek, dark surfaces underneath that seemed to drink in light itself. Where there had been basic sensor profiles moments before, now there were void spaces in the Confederation's detection grid. Impossible, Zixtal breathed. All ships, full defensive protocols. They've hidden there. The first shot of the battle came not from the front of Earth's fleet, but from empty space behind the Confederation's formation. A quantum torpedo, its existence masked until the moment of detonation, created a localized dimensional rift that swallowed 3 Confederation cruisers whole. Multiple unknown contacts. The sensor officer screamed. They're everywhere. Admiral Chen's voice echoed through every Confederation command channel, their supposedly unbreakable encryption rendered meaningless. You assumed we showed you our entire fleet, strategist. You assumed our ships were primitive because they looked primitive. You assumed much. Allow us to correct those assumptions. Space itself seemed to twist as hundreds of additional human vessels phased into normal space. They had been there all along, hidden by technology the Confederation had never imagined possible. Each one was a dark mirror of their previous appearance. Angular still, but now with purpose, their surfaces rippling with active camouflage that made them appear to fade in and out of reality. Dimensional phase shift detected. Another officer reported. Our shields, they're not registering the human weapons at all. They're firing through frequencies we didn't know existed. On her command deck, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold with calm satisfaction. All ships, execute pattern Hydra. Show them why humanity chose to hide in plain sight. The Earth Defense Force moved with practiced precision, Decades of preparation, of fighting battles in simulator after simulator, paid off as they executed maneuvers that appeared to violate the laws of physics themselves. Ships vanished and reappeared, their quantum drives allowing them to exist in multiple probable locations simultaneously. Status report. Zixtal demanded, watching in horror as her perfect formation began to crumble. 30% of the fleet is reporting critical system failures, came the response. Their weapons, they're not just penetrating our shields, they're reconfiguring them, converting our own defensive systems into weapons. In her observation pod, Ethra frantically compiled data, watching as everything she had warned about came to pass. The humans weren't just fighting with superior technology, they were fighting with superior strategy. Every move the Confederation made had been anticipated, prepared for, and countered before the battle even began. "Look at these energy patterns," she murmured, understanding dawning. "They're not just using advanced technology. They're using our own assumptions against us. Every primitive design choice was deliberate. Every apparent weakness, a carefully laid trap." A new transmission cut through the chaos of battle. Captain Rodriguez's voice, calm and almost apologetic. "We did try to tell you we preferred to develop at our own pace. You assumed that meant we were behind you. The truth is, we've been waiting for you to catch up." As if to emphasize his words, a squadron of human ships executed a maneuver that should have been impossible. They linked their quantum fields, creating a cascading series of dimensional folds that trapped an entire wing of Confederation vessels in a pocket of distorted space-time. "All ships, retreat," Zixtal finally ordered, her proud voice cracking. "Full withdrawal. We must warn the Confederation." "I'm afraid we can't allow that," Admiral Chen responded. "You came here to demonstrate your power. We would be poor hosts if we didn't return the favor. All ships, activate the Mobius protocol." The dark human vessels began to pulse with patterns of light that hurt to look at. Reality itself seemed to twist around them as they activated technology that the Confederation had never dreamed possible. In that moment, Zixtal finally understood. They hadn't been facing a primitive species at all. They had been facing a civilization that had chosen to appear primitive, had chosen to hide its true nature, had waited patiently for this very moment. And now, that patience was about to be rewarded. The Mobius protocol activated like a ripple across reality itself. Every human vessel pulsed with geometric patterns that seemed to exist in more dimensions than space should allow. The effect spread outward, creating a vast web of interconnected quantum fields that encompassed the entire battlefield. In the Confederation fleet, alarms blared as systems began to fail in ways their designers had never anticipated. Ship after ship reported the same impossible phenomenon. Their advanced technology was being reduced to its component functions, stripped down and rebuilt according to laws of physics they didn't understand. "What are they doing to us?" Zixtal demanded, watching as her mighty fleet became entrapped in humanity's technological web. Through the chaos, Ethra's voice cut clear. "They're not just fighting us, Supreme Strategist. They're teaching us." On the viewing screens, the human ship's metamaterial hulls had become completely transparent, revealing the true nature of their technology. It was an intentional display, Admiral Chen knew. A lesson written in battle. "Your civilization built upward," Chen's voice echoed through every Confederation ship. "You discovered a technology, refined it, perfected it, and then built upon it. Linear, predictable. We chose a different path." The transparent human vessels showed technology that defied Confederation understanding. Where they had built their ships around single, powerful cores, humanity had created hybrid systems that worked in concert. Where they had focused on perfecting existing theories, humans had explored parallel paths of scientific development simultaneously. Status of the Mobius field, Chen asked on a private channel. 97% coverage, Rodriguez reported. Their ships are completely contained. Dimensional anchors are holding steady. In the Confederation fleet, Ethra watched in fascination as her sensors revealed the truth. These humans, She breathed. They didn't just develop technology. They developed entirely new ways of thinking about technology. Look at these energy signatures. They're using quantum uncertainty as a weapon platform. Zixtal could only watch as her fleet hung helpless in space, caught in humanity's technological demonstration. The human ships began to move again, but not to attack. Instead, they formed a new pattern, one that seemed to fold through dimensions the Confederation couldn't perceive. "We could destroy your fleet," Chen continued, her voice now gentle. "But that would defeat the purpose of this demonstration. You came to show us the benefits of your civilization. We're showing you something in return, the danger of assumption, and the price of arrogance." The Mobius Protocol reached its final stage. Throughout the Confederation fleet, systems began to restore themselves, but they were changed, enhanced. The quantum web had rewritten their technology, upgrading it in ways their engineers would spend years trying to understand. What have you done to our ships?" Zixtal asked, noting that every system was now operating at levels their builders had thought theoretically impossible. "We gave you a glimpse of what cooperation could look like," Rodriguez answered. "Your ships now have a fraction of our quantum integration protocols. Consider it a gift and a reminder." Ethra's analysis station was flooded with data she could barely comprehend. The humans hadn't just beaten them. They had fundamentally changed how the Confederation's technology worked. This was never about warfare, she realized. This was about evolution. Admiral Chen's final transmission carried the weight of centuries of human preparation. You believed you were coming to uplift a primitive species. Instead, you encountered a civilization that chose to appear primitive while we studied, learned, and prepared. The question you should be asking isn't how we defeated your fleet. It's why we waited until now to show ourselves. The implications of that statement sent shockwaves through the Confederation command structure. How many other seemingly primitive species were out there, waiting and watching? How many had chosen to hide their true capabilities? As the Confederation fleet began its chastened withdrawal, Ethra copied one last data stream. In it, she found something that made her heart skip: plans for a technology exchange program, prepared years in advance. The humans hadn't just anticipated this confrontation. They had planned for what would come after. The battle was over, but its true impact was just beginning. Humanity had changed the galaxy's understanding of technological development in a single encounter. And as the Confederation ships limped home, carrying their upgraded systems and wounded pride, one thing became crystal clear: the age of assumption was over. The real age of discovery was about to begin. The grand assembly of the Xenon Confederation had never been so quiet. Gone was the usual sophisticated chatter, replaced by a heavy silence as Supreme Strategist Zixtal delivered her report. The holographic displays showed the battle from multiple angles, each view more humbling than the last. In conclusion, Zixtal said, her scales now a muted gray, "We did not encounter a primitive species requiring guidance. We encountered a civilization that had surpassed us in ways we had never imagined possible." The silence deepened. Then, from her newly elevated position in the chamber, Ethra spoke. "The humans call it lateral thinking. While we built our technology like a tower, each advancement stacked upon the last, they built theirs like a web. They explored multiple paths simultaneously, finding connections we never considered." The assembly stirred as Admiral Chen's hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. The human stood calmly, her presence commanding respect that no one would have granted mere weeks ago. "Members of the Confederation," Chen began, "what you experienced was not meant to humble you, though I understand it had that effect. It was meant to awaken you." She gestured, and the space around her filled with complex technological schematics, the first wave of shared human innovation. "Your civilization has achieved remarkable things by following a linear path of development. But there are other paths, other ways of thinking about progress itself." High Commander Venera leaned forward, his cybernetic eyes whirring as they analyzed the displays. "These designs, They integrate technologies we considered incompatible. They shouldn't work, and yet they do, Chen finished, because we questioned the very assumptions that told us they shouldn't. While your civilization reached for the stars, we reached in all directions at once. We learned to fold space before we mastered fusion. We developed quantum communication before we built our first colony ship. The schematics shifted, showing the true nature of Earth's fleet. Ships that didn't just use technology, they embodied it. Vessels that thought in quantum possibilities and moved through dimensional probabilities. But why hide? Clore demanded. Why present yourselves as primitive? Because, Ethra answered before Chen could. They were studying us. All those years we thought we were observing a developing species, they were learning our strengths, our weaknesses, our assumptions. Every primitive design choice was a carefully crafted deception. Chen nodded. We had achieved faster-than-light travel 3 centuries before we allowed ourselves to be discovered. We watched as the Confederation uplifted species after species, imposing its linear view of progress. We waited, and we prepared, knowing that eventually you would come to do the same to us. The assembly erupted in shocked murmurs. 3 centuries. The implications were staggering. Today, Chen continued, we offer you a choice. Not an ultimatum, not a demand, but an invitation. Humanity is ready to join the galactic community, not as students, but as teachers, not as subjects, but as partners. The holographic display shifted one final time, showing a massive structure taking shape in Earth orbit. This is the Convergence Institute, Chen explained, a place where your linear development can meet our lateral innovation, where we can learn from each other's successes and failures. And if we refuse, someone called out. Chen smiled, not unkindly, but with firm resolution. Then we will continue our own path of development, and you will continue yours. But ask yourselves, how many other primitive species are out there right now, watching, waiting, developing in ways you never imagined possible? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Throughout the chamber, representatives began to understand the true scale of change humanity had brought to their ordered universe. The age of assumption was over. The age of true discovery was beginning. In her pod, Ethra looked at the data streaming across her screens, the first wave of shared human knowledge. It would take decades just to understand the basics of how they thought about technology, let alone implement it. But something else caught her attention, an open channel to Earth, filled with questions from human scientists about Confederation technology. They weren't just teaching. They were still learning, still curious, still seeking new paths of development. As the assembly debated the details of humanity's proposal, Admiral Chen shared a private communication with Ethra. Your warning about us was correct. You saw what others refused to see. There will be a place for you at the Convergence Institute, if you want it. The young analyst looked at her own civilization with new eyes. They had thought themselves the teachers of the galaxy, only to discover they had been students all along. But perhaps that was humanity's greatest gift, showing them that there was always more to learn, always another path to explore, always another way to look at the universe. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter that day, as if acknowledging that a new chapter in galactic history had begun. Not with conquest or submission, but with the simple, powerful revelation that progress itself could progress in ways no one had imagined possible.